I had been looking forward to our wedding anniversary for months. It was our 5-year mark, a time I thought we would celebrate our love and the life we had built together. I planned a beautiful evening at an upscale venue, a private dinner meant just for me and my wife, Sophia. I put a lot of thought into every detail because I believed our anniversary should be special, a reminder of all we had shared. However, the day took a sudden, unexpected turn when my brother Eric announced that he was hitting a barbecue party on the very same day. At first, I thought it was just a careless mistake, a mix-up that could be easily resolved. I even tried to laugh it off, hoping that everything would be fine. But then Sophia made her choice without any further discussion. With a dismissive tone, she told me that she was going to Eric's barbecue instead of coming to our anniversary dinner. I was stunned when I confronted her. She scoffed and said, "Come on, Adam, it's just a party. We can celebrate at our anniversary anytime." Her words hurt more than I expected, because deep down I knew it wasn't just about a party. It was a statement. In that moment, I understood exactly where I stood in our marriage, and I felt a deep disappointment that left no room for compromise. I made a clear decision then, and there I decided that no one, not even my wife, would be allowed to show up late or break the plan for our special night. I would not allow anyone to disrupt what I had planned for myself on our anniversary. That night, as the evening began to unfold, I made sure every detail was exactly as I wanted it. The venue was elegant and calm, and I had an exclusive guest list that included true friends and family who valued my marriage. I even spoke with the head of security and made it very clear. No one enters late, not even my wife. His eyes widened slightly as he asked if I was sure, but I nodded firmly. I told him that anyone who chose a barbecue over our marriage did not belong at my event. With that, I set my trap. I watched his guests begin to arrive, the evening filled with light laughter, soft music, and good conversation. My best friend Jason even shook his head in disbelief when he heard the news about Sophia's decision. He whispered to me, "I still can't believe she picked a barbecue over your anniversary." I've forced a smile, but it did not reach my eyes. Deep inside, I felt a cold certainty that Sophia was making a big mistake. A mistake that would show her true colors later that night, while I was enjoying the carefully planned celebration among friends who truly cared. I knew that Sophia and Eric were probably having the time of their lives at the barbecue. Completely unaware of what I had arranged, I had locked the doors and set the rules so that she could not come in late. The stage was set for her to face the consequences of her choice, and I felt a strange mix of calm and resolve. As I sat among those who supported me, I knew that if she truly cared about our marriage, she would have been here on time. Instead, her decision spoke loudly about her priorities. I sat back and let the evening continue, every detail of the elegant venue a silent protest against her neglect. My heart was heavy, yet I felt a sense of control, knowing that I had set things up just as I had planned. In that moment, I realized that I was no longer willing to let her actions go unnoticed. I had planned a night that was meant to honor our union, and her choice to be at Eric's party was a clear message. A message that I now understood meant she did not value our marriage as much as I did. I steeled myself for the inevitable fallout, knowing that tonight would mark a turning point in our relationship. My decision was firm. No latecomers, no exceptions. That was the rule I had set, and it was now time for the night to reveal its truth. As the event unfolded and the soft sounds of genuine friendship and celebration filled the air, I sat there silently, each moment reinforcing my decision. I was determined that my anniversary would not be ruined by someone who did not respect the commitment we had made that night. I waited with a heavy heart and clear expectations, knowing that Sophia's absence was not just a personal slight, but a statement about our future. And so, in the quiet of that elegant evening, the truth began to show itself. A truth that I would not let go unchallenged. The next morning, I woke up early with a clear plan in mind. I spent extra time getting ready, not out of worry, but out of determination to make sure everything was perfect. I knew exactly what I had to do so that nothing would go wrong. I had chosen a beautiful, elegant venue that would speak for itself, a place where every detail was arranged just right. I had invited only the people who truly mattered, those who supported our marriage and respected our commitment. I had carefully curated the guest list to include close friends and family who I trusted. Every light, every table, and every little decoration had been set up to remind me that this night was about celebrating what I had worked so hard to build. Before the event started, I took a moment to speak privately with the head of security. I looked him straight in the eye and said in simple and firm words, "No one enters late tonight, not even my wife." I saw his eyes widen a bit as he hesitated and asked, "Are you sure, sir?" I nodded slowly, making it clear that there was no room for second-guessing. I added quietly, "Anyone who chooses to put a barbecue over our marriage does not belong here." My words were simple, but they carried all the weight of my feelings. With that, the trap was set. I could feel the importance of every instruction I had given. This was not about being mean or spiteful. It was about showing, with clear and honest rules, how much I valued our marriage. I wanted everyone to know that tonight was meant to honor our union, and that disrespecting that was not acceptable. I took a deep breath and let the reality of the plan sink in. I imagined the night unfolding exactly as I had arranged, with every detail in place. I pictured the elegant venue, the carefully arranged tables, and the guests who would be sharing in this celebration. It was a moment of control and clarity for me as the day went on. I checked every detail myself. I made sure that the staff knew the schedule, that the lights were set to the perfect mood, and that the sound system played soft, inviting music. I even walked around with the security team to double-check that all the doors were secured and that no one would be allowed in after the agreed time. My heart was steady as I repeated the rules. In my mind, I had built everything up so that tonight could be exactly what I needed. A night to mark my own feelings about our marriage. Throughout the morning, I kept thinking about the simple rule I had laid out. I thought about how sometimes actions speak much louder than words. I had already felt the sting of her choice the day before and now. By setting these clear rules, I was making sure that the truth would not be hidden. I was ready to show that if you do not value what you have, then you must face the consequences. It was a quiet act of self-respect, a way of taking back control of my own life. I recalled every moment that led up to this point. The careful planning, the disappointed look on my face when I learned about the barbecue, and the steady resolve that had grown in me ever since. Everything had led me to this moment, and I was determined not to let it slip away. When the time finally came, I stood at the entrance of the venue with a sense of purpose. I was not worried about hurting anyone. I was more focused on showing that my marriage, my commitment, was something that deserved respect. As each guest arrived, I could see that the rules I had set made it clear that this was a night for those who truly cared. I had made sure that everything was in place. I had spoken the truth in simple words, and now I was ready to let the night take its course, with every detail checked off and every rule firmly in place. I felt a calm satisfaction. Tonight was going to be a turning point, a statement about what mattered in our lives. And as I watched the door, knowing that no latecomers would be allowed, I felt that my decision was right. I had set the rules, and in doing so, I had set the stage for the rest of the night to follow, exactly as I had planned. The guests began to arrive at the venue one by one, and I watched as they entered with warm smiles and friendly greetings. The room was softly lit and decorated with simple yet elegant details. A few candles here, some fresh flowers there. Everything arranged to create a calm and welcoming atmosphere. I felt a mix of emotions as I looked around. On one side, there were familiar faces of close friends and family who had come to support me. And on the other side, I knew deep inside that something important was missing. That something was Sophia. I had set everything up carefully, and tonight was meant to be a celebration of our 5-year marriage. I wanted it to be a night of warmth and sincere connection, a moment where our love was honored in the simplest way. Yet as I looked at the clock, I could not shake the heavy truth that she was not there. I knew she was at Eric's barbecue, laughing and enjoying herself with my brother, while I was here trying to keep the plan exactly as I had arranged inside. The music was soft, and the conversations low and sincere. Every time I looked around, I saw that the people I trusted were there. Friends who had been with me through thick and thin, and family who believed in the strength of our union. They greeted me with quiet words of encouragement and gentle pats on my shoulder. My best friend, Jason, whose presence always meant a lot to me, gave me a small, knowing smile and said quietly, "I still can't believe she picked barbecue over your anniversary." I managed a short, tight smile in return, although it did not hide the disappointment. I felt deep down. I tried to focus on the celebration itself. I took a moment to stand and talk with the guests, making sure everyone felt welcome and appreciated. Their voices were kind and understanding. I found myself listening carefully as people spoke about memories of our marriage. Happy times, shared laughter, and moments when our love had carried us through tough days. These words, even when simple, helped me remember that what we had built was strong and real, even if it now felt under threat. Every detail of the evening was planned to speak of respect and commitment. The long table in the center of the room was set with clean, crisp white cloth, and the silverware shone under the gentle lights. I had chosen a menu that was simple and tasteful, with dishes that reminded me of the good times we once shared. As I moved from table to table, greeting each guest with a polite nod or a small smile, I felt both the joy of the celebration and the sting of her absence. It was a mix of satisfaction and sadness. A part of me was proud of the calm and dignity I was trying to show, while another part of me was hurt that she had chosen a different path. Throughout the evening, I kept checking the entrance, half expecting to see Sophia appear at any moment. Each time I glanced at the door, my heart would skip a beat, only to sink again when I realized she was still not there. I had set my rules clearly. No latecomers, no exceptions. That simple rule had become the symbol of my decision. A decision that I hoped would speak louder than words. I wanted everyone to see that if you do not value what you have, then you must face the consequences. Tonight was not just about me or about my hurt feelings. It was about showing that my marriage, our marriage, deserved respect. As the hours passed, the gentle hum of conversation mixed with soft laughter and clinking glasses, I gave a short, simple speech to the guests. I thanked them for coming and spoke about the meaning of the day. I said something like, "Tonight is a reminder of the things that truly matter. Our love is built on trust, respect, and commitment. I believe in celebrating what is real, and I hope that in time all of us can learn to value that above all else." The words were simple and honest, and, though my voice was calm, it carried a hint of finality that not everyone could ignore. Every time someone mentioned the missed opportunity for Sophia to join us, I felt a surge of mixed emotion. I knew that she had made her choice, and deep down I had understood what that choice meant. It was not simply a matter of preferring a barbecue over our anniversary. It was a statement that told me exactly where I stood. I did not need to shout or cause a scene. My silence and the simple rules I had set were enough to make the truth clear to everyone in that room. I felt a quiet pride in the control I had taken, even if it came at a personal cost. By the time the evening began to wind down, it was clear that the celebration was a success. Without her, The guests left with sincere smiles, many of them telling me that they respected the way I had handled the situation. Jason came over once more and said softly, "You showed them all tonight, Adam. I'm sorry. It had to be this way. But sometimes this is how the truth comes out." His words were gentle, but they confirmed what I had already known, that tonight had been a turning point. The grand celebration had taken place, but without the person who had hurt me the most. And in that absence, a difficult truth was made plain. As the last guest left and the lights dimmed, I stood alone in the quiet of the now empty venue. I looked around at the simple decorations and the lingering echo of laughter, and I realized that while the celebration had been beautiful, it was also bittersweet. It was night where I honored the values I held dear. And it was also a night where I saw clearly that if you choose to disrespect what you have, you may find yourself locked out of the most important moments. I left the venue with mixed feelings, relief, sorrow, and a deep, steady resolve. The grand celebration had gone on without her, and in that simple truth I felt that I had made a choice for my own future. I knew that the coming days would bring more questions and more difficult moments. But tonight I had taken a stand. I had shown that when you decide to set clear rules, you can shape the outcome of your own life, even if it means facing the pain of loss. And as I walked away from that night, I carried with me the lesson that some choices leave, a mark that no one can erase. A lesson written in the quiet success of a celebration held for those who truly valued the love and respect that I believed in. I was in the middle of the celebration, feeling the gentle hum of music and warm laughter all around me when my phone suddenly buzzed. At first, I ignored it, letting it ring for a few moments as I tried to focus on the calm joy of the evening. But then a text message arrived from Sophia. The words on the screen read, "Hey, I'm on my way. Got caught up at Eric's. I'll be there soon." I stared at the message for a moment, my heart tightening. I already knew that she had chosen the barbecue over our special night, and now this message was proof that she was late. I did not reply. I simply let the phone keep buzzing softly on the table. A few minutes passed and another text came through. This one was shorter, and it carried a sense of urgency. "Babe, why aren't you answering?" I couldn't help but let a small smirk cross my face. The message told me that she was starting to feel the pressure, a feeling that I had expected all along. I felt no rush to respond. Instead, I continued talking with my guests and enjoying the evening that I had planned so carefully. I wanted the rules I had set to stand firm. No late arrivals, no exceptions. Then, as if to add the final note to her growing panic, a third text arrived. The message was blunt and demanding. "They won't let me in. Adam, open the door now." I paused and looked at my phone, my eyes briefly scanning the words. It was clear that by this time she had hit the wall. The security at the venue was not letting her in because I had made my intentions clear. I felt a mix of satisfaction, action, and sadness. As I read it, I knew that her message was a desperate cry, a moment when her choice had finally caught up with her. I raised my glass slowly, my hands steady. As I glanced around the room, I saw the familiar faces of friends and family who were quietly observing the unfolding events. They knew what had been planned and understood the weight of the decision that had been made. I did not feel a need to shout or make a scene. I simply let the situation speak for itself. Instead of answering or rushing to the door, I let the message remain unanswered on my phone. I continued to enjoy my night, each sip of my drink, a silent reminder that I had set clear rules long ago. Outside, I imagined the scene. Sophia standing at the door arguing with the security guards, her voice rising in panic and frustration. I could almost see her eyes wide with disbelief as she tried to explain herself, only to be met with the firm, unyielding words of the guards. I felt a cold, steady certainty that this was exactly what I had expected. By choosing to ignore my invitation to join the celebration, she had accepted the consequences. Every text she sent, every plea to be Lynn, only confirmed the distance that had grown between us on this important day. I took another moment to look around at the warm, elegant room filled with genuine friends who valued what I had built. Their quiet, understanding, and sympathetic looks said more than any words ever could. I felt both the weight of our lost connection and the strength of my own resolve. In that moment, I knew that the rule I had set was not meant to be cruel for its own sake. Seeing, it was a simple reminder that if you choose to ignore the commitments we make to each other, you must face the consequences. So I let the texts sit on my phone as I continued the night, a silent observer of the unfolding drama outside. The first panic call had been the signal that things were not going to be fixed by a quick apology or a rushed arrival. It was a turning point, a moment when it became clear that the choice had been made long ago. And as the evening went on, the absence of Sophia became a quiet echo that filled the elegant space, a reminder of a promise broken and a marriage pushed to its limits. Outside the elegant venue, I could see the scene unfolding exactly as I had expected. The door was firmly closed, and Sophia stood there with a mix of frustration and disbelief on her face. She raised her voice, trying to convince the security guard to let her in. "This is my husband's event. Let me in." She shouted her words, carrying a mix of anger and desperation. The guard, standing firm by the door, shook his head. "I'm sorry, man, but the instructions are clear. No late arrivals," he said. Simply, his tone was steady, leaving no room for negotiation. I stood a few steps away inside, watching everything with a calm detachment that belied the pain. I felt it was the moment I had planned for, and now it was all coming true. Soon Eric arrived. He was clearly not in the best state, drunk and stumbling as he walked beside her. "Relax, sophomore. It's just a party. He'll let you in," he slurred, trying to sound reassuring, but his words only deepened the sense of despair on her face. I could see the panic growing in her eyes as the reality of my strength. Rule sank in. I did not move or speak. The door remained locked, a simple symbol of the rule I had set: no latecomers allowed. Every moment that passed felt heavy. As Sophia's protests grew louder, she pleaded with the guard, her voice rising in urgency. "Adam, please let me in." Her words were desperate, and I could sense her frustration. With every passing second inside, the room remained filled with the soft hum of gentle music and warm conversations among the guests. Their faces, once full of excitement at a beautifully planned evening, now reflected a growing awareness of what was happening outside. I saw a few looks of sympathy, but also a quiet understanding that the choice had been made long ago. I watched through the window as Sophia's argument with the security guard continued. Her voice wavered between anger and despair as she insisted, "This is my husband's event. I deserve to be here." But the guard's reply was unchanging. "Rules are rules, ma'am. I'm sorry, but I can't let you in." It was as if a heavy wall had been built between her and the celebration. I had carefully orchestrated a wall that would not crumble under her pleas. The guard's steady refusal was all the answer I needed. I felt a cold certainty deep in my heart. I had made my decision a long time ago. I set the rule because I wanted the night to be a true celebration of our marriage, of the love and respect I believed we were meant to share. Tonight was meant to honor those values, and if she chose a barbecue over our anniversary, then she had to face the consequences. As the minutes ticked by, the situation outside grew more tense. I could see her frustration turn into panic, and then into a sinking realization. Her eyes showed a deep hurt, a pain that came from being left out when she had once been the one who was meant to be a partner in our marriage. The scene was heartbreaking, but it was also the natural result of a choice that had been made. I listened to the muffled sounds of her argument, and the occasional calm response of the guard. All from behind the safety of the locked door inside the venue. The guests continued their conversations, though a few of them occasionally glanced toward the door with concern. Their whispers floated softly in the air, speaking of regret, of mischances, and of the truth that was unfolding. I kept my gaze steady on the closed door, letting the silence speak volume. I did nothing to help her get in. The rule was clear, and I was committed to it. I had set that rule as a reminder that when you choose to prioritize something else over our marriage, you have to be prepared to face the consequences. In that quiet moment, I felt a mix of sorrow and relief. If you do not respect the commitment we made, then you must bear the burden of that choice. And so, as the night went on, and the conversation inside the room continued, I remained by the door, a silent witness to the consequences of choices made. The locks stayed firm, and with each passing moment it became clear that this was a point of no return. The evening was no longer just a celebration. It was a statement, a turning point that would shape our future in the days to come. I was in the middle of giving a short speech to our guests when I heard a sudden noise outside. I paused and looked out the large window, expecting perhaps a friend arriving late or some other interruption. But what I saw made my heart sink. There, standing in the doorway, was Sophia. Her face was pale, and her eyes were full of hurt. For a long moment she stood there in silence, as if trying to understand why the door would not open for her. I continued my speech inside, trying to sound calm and clear, as I thanked the guests for coming, and spoke about the values of trust and commitment. Yet deep down I could not ignore the heavy truth that was unfolding outside. As I spoke, I kept glancing toward the door, and I could see that Sophia's struggle was real. Her eyes slowly filled with tears as she realized that I wasn't coming to get her. The security guard, following my clear instructions, remained firm and unmoved outside. The noise of the soft music and chatter from the venue was now mixed with the sound of her frustrated pleas. I heard her voice shaky and desperate, repeating, "Adam, please let me in." But the door stayed locked, and the guard simply repeated, "No late arrivals," in a tone that left no room for discussion at that moment. My brother Eric, already at the barbecue, and noticeably unsteady from drinking, came over to her with a laugh that was more dismissive than caring. He said, "Come on, sis-in-law, it's just one night. We can party somewhere else." His tone made it seem like this was not a big deal, as if a miss-anniversary celebration could be brushed off easily. But I knew this was not just about one night. This was a turning point, a moment that showed how our lives had changed forever inside. As I continued my speech, I felt a deep, steady weight in my chest. Every word I spoke was laced with both sorrow and a strange sense of resolve. I talked about the importance of keeping promises and staying true to what really matters in a marriage. I spoke slowly, deliberately, making sure each guest understood that this night was meant to celebrate real commitment. But as I spoke, I could feel my heart hardening a little more. With each moment that passed, and with each call that came in from her phone, I noticed that after her first call outside, she tried again and again to reach me. Her messages came in quickly, one text after another asking, "Adam, why aren't you answering?" And then a desperate plea, "They won't let me in. Adam, open the door now." But I kept my phone silent. I did not answer. I let those messages hang there unanswered, as a quiet declaration that the rules I set were final. Every minute that ticked by made the truth sink in for her. For the first time in our 5 years of marriage, she was left out in the cold, truly left out. I saw her lower her head as if in defeat, and the bright hope that might have once been in her eyes was gone. It was clear to everyone watching that she felt the full weight of being abandoned by someone she had once trusted. The sound of her repeated calls and the soft sobs in the background told a story that no words could. There was no comforting her that night. There was only the harsh truth that her choices had brought her to this very moment. I finished my speech with a calm but steady tone, saying, "Tonight we honor the values that matter most: trust, respect, and commitment." I hoped that those words would reach every heart in the room, reminding them that this was not a night for careless celebration, but for honest reflection. The room fell quiet after I finished speaking, the only sound coming from the soft music and the quiet murmurs of our guests. In that silence, I felt a deep and sorrowful clarity. I had made my choice long ago, and now it was clear that Sophia's decision had real consequences. When the final text came in, I simply left it unanswered. I blocked any further calls or messages, not out of anger, but because I had already made up my mind. The locked door outside became a powerful symbol of the turning point in our marriage, a symbol that showed in the simplest terms what happens when one chooses a path away from true commitment. I looked out one last time, seeing Sophia's figure standing small and alone in the doorway, and I felt a mix of regret and resolve. That moment, as it sank deep into the night, was the moment everything changed. I had set the rules, and now I was watching them take effect. Sophia's face, filled with hurt and disbelief, was a reminder that some choices come with heavy costs. And as I stood there, speaking softly into the microphone and letting my words echo in the elegant venue, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. This was not just one missed anniversary. It was the day our marriage took its final, irrevocable turn, a day when the truth could no longer be hidden behind excuses or empty promises. It was the moment everything sank in, and the reality of our lives was laid bare for everyone to see. Months later, life had settled into a new normal, a normal that I had chosen for myself. I sat in my small, quiet apartment on the day of my next anniversary, the one I spent all alone. It was a simple day, but I did not feel lonely or sad. Instead, I felt free and relieved. I had learned a hard lesson about respect, and now I was moving on. I looked out my window and saw the sun shining on the busy street below. In that soft light, I realized that I no longer needed to wait for someone who could not value our marriage. Every time I passed by a place where friends used to gather for our celebrations, I remembered the night that changed everything. I recalled how I had set the rules, and how I had let Sophia face the consequences of her own choice. Eric still threw his meaningless parties, loud and careless as if nothing mattered. And Sophia, she still tried to call me, still sent messages hoping I would let her in. But I had learned that if a partner does not put our marriage first, then they do not deserve a place in it. On this anniversary, I decided to mark the day in a way that celebrated my own life. I went out to a quiet cafe with a couple of true friends who had stood by me. Through it all, we sat at a small table outside, the warm sun on our faces, and a gentle breeze carrying away the remnants of the past. My best friend Jason raised his glass and said simply, "To fresh starts." I smiled and clinked my glass with his, feeling a warm glow of hope. There was no regret in my heart. Now I did not spend the day mourning what was lost, or what might have been. Instead, I filled the hours with small acts of kindness toward myself. Reading a good book, taking a long walk in the park, and even writing a few lines. In a new journal, I wrote about the lessons I had learned, about the importance of honesty and the need for respect in a relationship. I reminded myself that I had the power to choose my own path, and that path no longer included someone who had let me down. I often thought back to that night when I set the rules and locked the door. At the time, it had hurt deeply, but now it was a clear turning point. I had stood by my principles and shown that if you choose something else over your commitment, you must be ready to face the cost. I had learned that actions speak much louder than words. When you make a choice to ignore what truly matters, the result is clear and painful, and I had seen that truth with my own eyes. Even now, I received calls and texts from Sophia filled with apologies and desperate pleas for forgiveness, but I let them go unanswered. I had moved on from that hurt and found peace in knowing that some lessons are learned too late. I believe that every person should value and honor their promises, and if they did not, then they had no right to be a part of my future. Eric's parties continued loud and full of empty chatter, but they no longer held any power over me. They were just reminders of a past that I had outgrown. The more time passed, the more I realized that my life was meant for better things. I began to work on new projects, to invest in my dreams, and to enjoy the simple pleasures that life had to offer. My days were no longer defined by the hurt of that anniversary night, but by the promise of every new morning on that next anniversary. As I sat alone with a small cup of coffee and a warm smile, I felt a deep gratitude for my new beginning. I had no bitter left in my heart, only a steady determination to live a life of honesty, respect, and self-worth. I had learned that if someone cannot prioritize what is important in a marriage, then they do not deserve a place in it. And so I celebrated not just the end of a troubled past, but the start of a future that was entirely my own. I knew that moving on was not about forgetting what happened, but about choosing to grow from it. Every memory, every regret was now a stepping stone toward a brighter, simpler future. I looked forward to the days ahead, days filled with real laughter, genuine connections, and the simple joy of knowing that I was finally free to be myself. And as I sipped my coffee that quiet morning, I whispered to myself a small truth. Sometimes the best way to honor what you have is to let go of what hurts you. That was my new life. A life without regret, a life built on clear choices, and a life where I was in control of my own destiny. Sometime later, I found myself looking back on everything with a quiet, clear mind. Life had changed in ways I never imagined. I had learned that when someone does not honor the promises they make, it is up to you to protect your own heart and future. Now, every morning, I wake up in my new apartment feeling lighter and more hopeful. I no longer worry about what is past or the hurt that once filled my days. Instead, I focus on building a simple, honest life filled with respect, real friends, and fresh dreams. I take walks along the busy street, feeling the warm sun on my face, and I remind myself that I made the right choices. I remember the long nights, the cold silence of a locked door, and the sting of missed chances. But those memories have become lessons. I know now that if you choose a path that hurts what truly matters, you have to be ready to face the cost. My friends still call, and sometimes I hear a message from Sophia full of apologies and pleas. I do not answer. I have learned that forgiveness is not always needed, and sometimes the best way to heal is to simply move forward. I have discovered that the end of one chapter can be the start of another. Every small victory, the smile of a friend, a kind word, a quiet evening with a good book reminds me that life can be beautiful, even after pain. Sometimes, when I sit quietly with a cup of coffee and look out at the city lights, I feel the gentle pull of hope. I think of all the things I've learned, that true respect begins with you, that your happiness matters more than keeping a broken bond, and that every day is a chance to start over. I have chosen to let go of anger and bitterness, and instead I embrace the freedom of a new beginning. I know that I will face challenges in the future. Life is not always simple or kind, but I now trust that I have the strength to meet whatever comes my way. I have learned to value honesty, commitment, and the power of making clear choices. With every step I take, I leave behind the her of the past and welcome a future built on my own truth. In the end, I smile at the thought of moving on. I no longer need to be defined by a single night, a missed anniversary, or a broken promise. I have found a new path, one where I am in control, where I set my own rules, and where I honor what matters most, myself, and the genuine love I choose to share with others. And so, as the city hums softly around me, I step into each new day with gratitude, knowing that I have finally found peace in the truth of my own new beginning. I met someone new on a cool, clear morning that felt full of promise. I had been taking long walks in the park lately, trying to enjoy the simple beauty of life after all that had happened. That day, as I strolled along a quiet path lined with trees and gentle sunlight, I noticed a woman sitting alone on a worn wooden bench. She was reading a book, a novel I used to love when I was younger, and there was something soft and inviting in the way she held it. I paused for a moment, feeling an unexpected pull in my heart. I wasn't sure if it was curiosity or the need for change, but I decided to walk over and say hello. "Hi," I said, in a low, friendly tone as I approached her. She looked up, surprised for a split second, and then offered me a warm smile. "Hello," she replied. "I'm Emily." Her voice was gentle and clear, and it made me feel at ease right away. I introduced myself simply as Adam, and we began to talk. At first, our conversation was about the little things, the pleasant weather, the beauty of the park, and the book she was reading. I mentioned that it was one of my favorites, and her eyes lit up with a spark of recognition. We soon discovered that we shared many small interests. Emily liked quiet mornings with a good book and a cup of coffee just as much as I did. She told me about the little coffee shop she frequented near her apartment, and I said I knew a place where the coffee was always warm and inviting. We laughed over simple stories about our daily lives, and the conversation flowed naturally, as if we had known each other for years. There was no need for grand declarations or complex words. Everything was honest and clear. As we sat together on that bench, time seemed to slow down. The park around us was alive, with the soft rustle of leaves and the distant sound of children playing. Yet we were wrapped in our own quiet world. I shared a bit about my recent past, about the difficult lessons I had learned, about respect and commitment, and how I was rebuilding my life day by day. I spoke simply, without bitterness, focusing on the strength I had found in choosing to move forward. Emily listened quietly, her eyes gentle and understanding. When I mentioned the loneliness I had felt after my marriage fell apart, she placed a comforting hand on the back of the bench. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," she said softly. "It takes courage to start over." Her words felt like a warm light in a dark place. We talked about the small joys that now made up our days, like a walk in the park, the sound of music from a nearby cafe, and the hope of new beginnings. I found myself opening up in a way that I hadn't expected, and she did the same. Emily told me about her own struggles with trust and loss, how she had learned that sometimes you have to let go of what hurts you to make room for what heals you. In that simple exchange, we both realized that sometimes the best way to heal is by simply being honest and kind to each other. Before we knew it, the sun was higher in the sky and a gentle breeze stirred the leaves around us. We exchanged phone numbers with the quiet promise of meeting again, perhaps for coffee or another walk in the park as we parted ways that day. I felt a lightness that I hadn't known in a long time. It wasn't that I had forgotten the past or the pain I had endured. Rather, I was ready to embrace something new and real. I realized that every ending brings with it a chance for a new beginning, and that sometimes meeting someone who listens and cares can make all the difference. Walking home later, I felt a sense of calm and hope fill me. Emily's kind words and genuine smile stayed with me, a small reminder that life could still be beautiful, even after a time of sorrow. I understood that meeting someone new didn't erase the past, but it opened the door to the possibility of healing and growth. And so with each step I took on that quiet street, I carried with me the gentle promise of new connections, new laughter, and the simple truth that sometimes the best gift of all is the chance to start over and find a friend. perhaps even something more when you least expect it.